The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. In the course of his teaching, Jesus said to the crowds, "Beware of the scribes who like to go around in long robes and accept greetings in the marketplaces, seats of honor in synagogues, and places of honor at banquets. They devour the houses of widows and, as a pretext, recite lengthy prayers. They will receive a very severe condemnation." He sat down opposite the treasury and observed how the crowd put money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow also came and put in 2 small coins worth a few cents. Calling his disciples to himself, he said to them, "Amen, amen, I say to you, this poor widow put in more than all the other contributors in the treasury. For they all have contributed from their surplus wealth, but she, from her poverty, has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
When my grandmother was alive, she was 96 when she died 2 years ago. So there is hope for me. It's a little long time. She was, your typical story you hear, Social Security check to Social Security check. So, you live pretty much at the poverty level the rest of your life. And so on my birthday and I think Christmas, she'd always give me money. And I felt super guilty taking her money. To the point where I said, "Grandmother, you can't give me $20. That's a lot for you." She got very stern with me, and she said, "Don't you take away the joy I have by giving to you." I said, "Okay, I'll take your $20." But that's true, right? You take away somebody's joy when they give. And so it was really hard for me when I first entered religious life because I was used to throwing money away, dimes and nickels all the time. I would just throw tons and tons of pennies away. I was joking there, but that one did not go well at all. It's not a lot of money. So before I entered the seminary, I would always pay for myself, paid for my car, paid for my insurance, I paid for everything, right? And so when I entered the Claretians, Father Darrin was my formator at the time, and we went out to dinner, and I took out my wallet. Because I always paid for my food, always. And he goes, "Put that away." What? I go, "We pay for everything now." Ooh, I like this. So to receive as a religious is really hard because our job description is to give our very self for the people. So when somebody wants to give to me, I have to accept that. That's sometimes very difficult for me to receive. That's probably the hardest thing. Because don't you feel guilty when somebody gives you something, you want to give something back, right? I don't know anybody who doesn't feel that way. And so I give you complete permission to give to me whatever you want to give. So I'll try to work on that virtue. But this is the weird thing. I just read this this week. The greatest cause of atheism today is you and me. That's what the statistics are showing now. That we are the greatest cause. The way we live our life as Catholic Christians, we are give rise to atheism in the United States. That was really disheartening. And they give you a bunch of stories of how, when we Christians have a bad day, somebody catches us on that bad day, makes a judgment about us because we had a bad day, and therefore all Christians must be like you, always having a bad day. And that has increased. And as you know, the statistics have shown in the last few years, in the last 7 years, atheism has increased 7%, and church attendance is down. And what else? Any other good news I can tell you? Oh, yes. Millennials, those who are 25 and younger, check this out. If you are a millennial, a Christian millennial, you give less than the atheist. That was a mind blower to me. Wow. So what are we as a church doing to make them miss the boat on giving, like the widow who gave her whole being, her whole sustenance to God? How is that message not being articulated? And I really don't know the answer to that. What are we not doing to help our young people get it? What is it that you and I, what's our problem? What's our fault in this? That's something we have to think about. Are we like the religious leaders, just giving our surplus, not really making any sacrifices? Are we really like the widow who really gives everything to God? If you think about that, think of the tsunami of cultural change if every Catholic lived the life like a saint. That would be awesome. That we lived like that widow, like my grandmother, just gave everything to Jesus in our time, in our talent, and treasure, our whole being. Think about that. What would that look like if we really were like that? Could we actually change the tsunami of culture that has now decided that atheism is in and Jesus is out? Can we do that? Absolutely. Remember, Europe was pagan. Greeks were pagan. They worshipped demons. They had no God the way we understand him. Now, you can go to Europe and you can see the beautiful churches, but their lives, their spiritual lives are dead, way worse than America. And that's where it all began. How did we go from pagan to Christian, going back to pagan again? And maybe it's because we're lazy. Maybe we just decided to be like the Pharisees and just give our surplus, just not really sacrifice ourselves to be that Christian saint that we're all called to be. Maybe we're all guilty of that. And maybe that's the reason why this change has happened. Why atheism in nuns, N-O-N-E-S, has increased to be the second largest religion in America. We must be conscious of our relationship with Jesus, pure and simple. We must be Christ in this culture at every level, not pick and choose. Because if we pick and choose, what makes us different than the rest of the world? Nothing. And I think we're so good at being camouflaged in our culture, we don't even stick out anymore. We're just like SEALs, Navy SEALs, hiding in the dark. Oh, where are those Catholics? Where are those Christians? I don't know. They're somewhere out there. And they're plucking us off the secular world. It's sucking us in. If you don't believe that, really have to pay attention to what's going on in our culture. I mean, we all know what's going on in the Middle East, and the Christians are losing their lives over there. But we know that religious freedom is being attacked at every level in almost every country. Why? Because we allowed that to happen. We decided to be camouflage Christians. And that really has to change regardless of our age. Maybe we're uncompassionate. Maybe because truth is unattractive. I don't know. Maybe using logic and reasoning is out. That we should just go by emotions. Maybe that's the new thing. Just be emotional, not be able to think. You know, like teenagers. But I think really, for us, we have to think like God does and look at the logic of our culture and ourselves and look at the illogic of our secular society. Because when you have illogic, something that doesn't make sense, you know that God is not behind that. For us to convince our young people that being a Christian is a good thing and that we are generous as Christians. I was still taken aback by that statistic that our atheists are more generous than our Christian brothers and sisters. So that might, but the funny thing is Catholics are very generous. You know, we have a fire or a flood somewhere in the world, we always give a second collection. When people are freezing, we give them coats. How is that not being articulated? How are we not getting our mission of Christianity and charity out there? I do not know how that's not working. Maybe we're not doing enough. Maybe we're not more convinced of our faith. I don't know. We have a lot of soul searching to do. Maybe we don't spend a lot of time in prayer. Now, as I mentioned before in some of my other homilies, that I could probably count maybe 10 times my experience here at Sacred Heart where somebody actually came to me and made an appointment and said, Father, I want to do something for the church. Maybe that's part of our problem. Maybe we don't want to do. Now, for those who can't do anything, if you have fingers and your brain is still working and you're breathing, we have a lot of rosaries that could be prayed. Our Claretian priests down in Dominguez, where Father Waz is, and Father Richard Detour, a lot of the priests there just go into the chapel and pray all day for us. Maybe for those, maybe you want to start doing that. Maybe we need that. Maybe we need more spiritual oomph into our lives, and maybe we need more protection and prayer. There's so many things that we can do. So I said this homily last Mass, and sure enough, I had one person come up to me and say, hey, Father, what can I do for you? Oh, great. So one person responded. But as baptized Christians, me even asking for help is kind of embarrassing because we are Christians and Christians do. They don't get asked. And that's the hard part, is that we think that we have to be asked to be a Christian. No, once you're baptized, you are already a card-carrying member. Your fire insurance is being paid right now. But to keep that insurance up to date, we need to respond to that. We need to go and be Christ in this world. We need to be the brick wall that stops the tsunami of the secularism that is infiltrating our culture and our church. We need to stop it and be what you've been called to be since the moment of your baptism. We can't afford to be maintenance Catholics any longer. And we're going to allow this tsunami to take us over. Forget that. We are a Christian country. We've lost that title a few decades ago, and we're becoming more and more secular. That's our fault. We blew it. But we can still stop it. And we can stop the bleeding. We can give it stitches. We can put a tourniquet on it. As long as we, as united family in Jesus Christ, take on our responsibility as Catholic Christians to do what we've been called to do, which is be Jesus in this culture. And not just sit there and watch and let my generation and younger deal with the consequences of our spiritual laziness. And the good news of all this, we win in the end. Because Jesus tells us we win. He's just telling us to wake up and be like the widow and give our whole selves to him and his church. Amen.